everybody. It's Lee. I've been on assignment for 3 of the 4 last weeks in the United Kingdom, and we decided to do a quick episode. It's only about 30 minutes about my journey abroad to coach professionally in the United Kingdom, but also to talk about just international hockey and how traveling and youth hockey is done differently in other countries. Really great conversation. So you're going to enjoy this one. Also, just as a reminder, we got a lot of great interviews coming up on Our Kids Play Hockey. We're going to be here with you all summer, all off season. With a lot of great tips, tricks, and information. We really want to make it good stuff this summer, not just the typical topics that we go through. Also want to remind you to check out whenhockeystops.com to make sure you pick up a copy. Kids definitely have summer reading this year. It's a great book that Christy and I wrote about dealing with adversity. You don't have to have a kid who's injured to read the book. It's a great book to prepare yourself for all the little mountains that we climb as people, both in hockey and in life. And finally, I want to remind you, check out worldhockeyhub.com. We're talking about international hockey. Check out worldhockeyhub.com, especially if you're a team manager or a coach. You can see world rankings, but you can also find other places to play, other teams to play. We've talked to them over there a lot. They do a great job of really expanding the game. So check that out at worldhockeyhub.com. But without further ado, after you've checked out worldhockeyhub.com and whenhockeystops.com, and you've liked and subscribed and shared the show with friends, come back to this and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another action-packed half an hour edition lightning round of Our Kids Play Hockey. I'm Lee Elias, and I'm joined, as always, by my good, powerful, wonderful, amazing friends, Michael Bonelli and Christy Casciano Burns. And we are live tonight. It's an evening show. And if you can see me, if you're listening, that's one thing. If you can see me, you might notice that I have a different hat on tonight. I'm not wearing my typical grit hat or my Our Kids Play Hockey hat. It's a big P, Christy. You're looking at it. It's a gigantic P, because I have been abroad for 3 of the last 4 weeks in the United Kingdom coaching with a professional team. And we asked our audience, what did you want to hear about this week? And it wasn't unanimous, which is good, but people said they want to hear about this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the stage for you two, tell everybody what I was doing, why I was doing it. And then we can have questions. We can talk about it. Maybe the merits of international hockey, which really, as Mike can attest to, you can learn an amazing amount by going to other countries outside North America to see how they do the game or sport or entertainment. So long story short, I was in Peterborough, United Kingdom, about 2 hours north of London. Now, when I lived in England for 3 years, I worked for this team. We won a championship together in 2015 and I've obviously moved back to the United States around 2016, and I've been here ever since. So I got a call from the head coach before the season asking, hey, do you want to be involved this year? And I said, I'd love to be, but I live 3,500 miles away. How are we going to do that? So basically, we kind of came to this conclusion of, look, maybe there's a way to do this remotely where you can work with the staff, you can work with our marketing department, media department. It was a kind of a two-tier job because the team had been off for 1.5 years due to COVID, right? And I know the team, I know the club, and I know kind of the soul of the city in a lot of ways, and they wanted me to help revitalize. So my first concern was, look, let's make sure this is viable because remote coaching is not a big thing yet. And we're talking about real people here. This isn't like a service, right? This is an actual hockey team. So we talked it over, and you know what? I was convinced. I'm like, you know what? I think we can make this work as long as we understand clearly the standards, right? And the standards were that, we'd have meetings every week, obviously, that I am not in a position to take physical action there. Someone will have to do that. And that, our goal is to obviously take the team as far as we can. So very long story short, from a media marketing side, the team well exceeded expectations in terms of budgets and revenue. And I really have to attest that to the media marketing and management team over there for putting in countless hours as volunteers. They did not get paid to put on a live broadcast every home game to make sure that the crowd and the experience was worth coming back to. And you got to remember at the start of the season, last season, COVID's still looming, right? It's not exactly where it is right now, where we're probably all a little bit more comfortable with it. It's a threat. We don't even know if we're going to get people in the building, right? Well, we had a good crowd every night, especially halfway through the season. And the game night experience expanded. And from a business standpoint, a media marketing standpoint, really proud of that crew. Every game got better and better and better. Now, from a team standpoint, this is an interesting season. And I'm going to go ahead and say right now, I'm not going to talk about anything that was private or went on within the locker room. That is not for public knowledge. but I can talk about the aura of the season. And the season started out with an 0-6 run, which was not what we were expecting. I mean, truth be told, look, we were expecting to do better than that, but we also know, look, coming out of COVID, we don't know if these guys are in shape. We just don't know. A lot of unknowns. So they started out of the gate 0-6. Then they started to find their stride. And by mid-season, we're looking okay. And then December happens. In December, Mike, you ready for this? Chris, you ready for this? We had 11 players out, half the roster due to injury. I've never seen that many players out before. This is congruent with other professional sports leagues after COVID, though, that injuries happen. So we go into December kind of really like, yeah, this is it. We're ready to go. And 11 players out. And you can imagine we did not win a game for a few weeks. And it was pretty dire at that point. But this is what I told the team. This is what I noticed. I noticed that every time we faced adversity, 0-6 start, being out of shape, even this, we always responded. This team always responded. The players always responded. I said, we got to lean in on that. Right. And this was what was cool about coaching is that, I was able to talk with the coaching staff and go over concerns and give somewhat of an outside perspective while being involved with the team heavily. And they bounced back. Right. The next weekend, they had 2 wins right away. And the rest of the season, I'd say we were the best team in the league, right? So coming out of December, in January, February, March, into April, we were the best team. We did not finish in the top half of the pack, but we finished high enough to make the playoffs. And this is where I get really proud of the team. In European hockey, in English hockey, there's 3 championships every year, believe it or not. So there is the Cup Championship. The way that works is the first home and away game against every team is a cup game as well as a regular season game. And then after everybody plays each other once home and away, they have a tournament to crown the cup. That's probably the 3rd title if you want to rank them. There's a playoff championship, which is like our Stanley Cup. That's actually their 2nd most important championship. And then there's the league championship, which is the best team overall. It's basically akin to the President's Trophy in America. And I always say to them, in America, we don't really care about that. But in Europe, just like if you follow Premier League soccer, that's the big one, right? So we didn't win that. We didn't win the cup. So we're going to the last month of the season when the playoffs are there. No one's expecting us to win anything. Nobody. No one's expecting us to even compete. We kind of scampered in. And the way the playoffs work, now this is interesting. Again, talk about European hockey. It's not like 2 conferences, right? They split the 8 teams that make the playoffs into 2 divisions, okay? It's basically a round robin tournament. And the top 2 teams from each division advance to the championship finals. Okay. So we were the 2nd to last lowest seed coming into this. This is why I love these guys. And this is why I love their determination. They bought totally into the playoff mentality. They bought totally into the accountability side of things of, okay, we're going to make something happen. They won their pool. So they come in low, they win their pool. We could have gone 6-0. I think we ended up going 4-2. All right. And I won't discuss the games. I will just say there was some frustrating officiating going on. I'll put it that way. But they performed. And we go into the championship weekend. We lost in the conference final by 1 goal. It was a heartbreaker. And I'm going to say this to both of you. I hate losing. I really, really hate losing. But I also was able to kind of take a macro approach and leave that going, you know what? This was a successful season. No one's going to remember that we didn't win. And that's okay. It was the team is back on track. The fans are back on track. The season's back on track. And I'll tell you, I always love coaching. They flew me out there. That's the last part of it. That's why I haven't been here. I flew out there for 10 days for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, came back to America for 10 days, which my friends over there called the holiday. It was my 10-day American holiday. Then I flew back again for 5 days for the championship weekend. It's an experience. I'll tell you, when you go to another country, when you're the one with an accent, but just to round this all out, and then I'll open it up because I'm doing all the talking today. I just love coaching and to have an experience to go to another land really and talk to different personalities. And really, you guys know this, I'm really a team development coach, and to be able to implement that and earn their trust throughout the season remotely, and then have that all connect at the end of the season. I could feel the brotherhood, as I departed of, we're really glad that this is happening. We're really glad you're here, on to next season. So I would chalk that up, outside not winning the trophy, as a success. All right. And I think that from a educational standpoint, I think we proved that remote coaching is actually something that's possible if you understand the standards and the responsibilities. And I thought that was a really interesting thing that can open up all sorts of exciting avenues for coaches to stay involved in the sport via Zoom. Again, not ideal, but it worked, right? So that was my experience, and that's why we didn't record any really fresh episodes for the last few weeks. It's why I'm wearing this P hat, and it's why I haven't slept in 3 to 6 weeks. And I plan
well, we missed you, and welcome back.
Thank you. I missed you guys too.
And I got to tell you, it does change your perspective
Totally.
when you go overseas. And thanks to Mike Benelli, we got to go over to Norway, and our girls got to spend some time with the Norwegian girl hockey players, and it was really eye-opening. It really was. And there are little nuances. I mean, there's some like subtle differences, and then there are big differences. So maybe we can kind of chime in and talk about that.
Yeah, but I think Chrissy, I think you're right about, I mean, the one nice thing, Lee, I think the advantage you have too is going in and giving a supportive eye to the team, but from a bird's eye view. You weren't there as a consultant to be like a critique of the coaches. You're like, well, I am one of the coaches, and this is what we can do better. But I have a perspective that I'm standing back here, and it's amazing when you're not part of the chaos. How you could have so much more clarity and obviously you must have a great relationship with the staff over there, because they're allowing you to, kind of jump into their world on your own timeline, basically. Right. So I think it's great for the players and the staff and people that you're involved in to see that, okay, well, here's a guy that can kind of step back and that's, basically that's how I kind of do a lot of the stuff I do with youth programs. Is like, I'm not there listening to the griping and the bitching and the moaning and all the day-to-day stuff or the happy. Like I'm not also there for like these great moments either of when the team succeeded. I'm not a part of that. You watch like the Stanley Cup playoffs right now, like every day is a building block for those type of things. Right. So if you miss those, it's hard to kind of be the outsider to come in, but it sounds like you were able to navigate that really well. And that's an art in itself. So it's attributed to their ability to accept you in that role, which is great.
And let's talk about the things that made it successful, Mike. You're actually making me think here. So the number one thing that was there from the start that I think is really important and what made this work was there's a really unbreakable trust between the head coach and myself. That was established over time. That was not something that they just appeared, right? He and I trust each other like brothers. And we knew that was going to be there. Right. And I think without that, there's no way this works. The second thing you said that's totally true is that, I was just as invested in the team, but like, I'm not there. So when I'm watching the games, I'm not on the bench. I'm not hearing everything. I'm just kind of watching the games. So when we'd have our weekly meeting, the head coach would come to me, Slava Kulikov is his name. He's the most brilliant tactician I've ever worked with, by the way. And he would, it wasn't really venting. We would just discuss what he saw. And then I would discuss what I saw. And more often than not, it's like, hey, you know what? I didn't think of it that way. Or I didn't see it that way. So it really created new conversations that I don't think I would have had if I was in the locker room. Another thing that I did, and I forgot to mention this, was that majority of these players, this was different. I knew the coaching staff, I know the captain, and I knew a couple of the veteran players, but a majority of the players were new from my previous time coaching. So when I was flying over for the 2 weeks leading up to that, I scheduled one-on-one personal Zooms with every single player on the team to introduce myself, to let them know who I was, to make sure if they had any questions they could ask me. And then also to let them know, and I meant this from my heart, I am coming to help you. Let me know how I can assist you and help you. I was very genuine. I think the other key with remote coaching is, and I'm going to say it, like, I wasn't bullshit. Like I was who I was to these guys, and they knew that as soon as I arrived, if you know what I'm trying to say. Like I wasn't going to, I told them, I'm not going to come there and start yelling at you when I haven't been there the whole season. That is not my role. I am coming to help you, assist you, and to do whatever I can to help this team win. That's my role. And obviously to assist the head coach. That is my main role, is to make sure that I make suggestions that can help him do a better job. So when those parameters existed, I think success was possible. And I'm going to say it, this team could have won this year. We've identified already for next season, a few things. And Mike and Christy, you'll relate to this. The team's very close. So it's just very minor adjustments. That last 1 to 5% is the hardest to get, because it's always literally tiny, small things that you got to kind of massage. And, you're leaving the season hopeful, disappointed you didn't win, but hey, we're going the right direction. There's nothing worse than when you end the season. It's like, oh man, that might've been it.
Or thank God it's over now. Instead, it's like, wow, I can't wait to get started.
Yeah. In fact, I had to separate that.
That's a really cool piece of that. And I think going back to Christy's point too, about going overseas, is that, I've been really fortunate, and it sounds like you were too, that you're able to call these players and communicate with them in the same language too. And that's such a huge piece. Like when Christy, and it was great, and she's giving me the credit, but it wasn't my credit. It was the fact that she, as a parent, and her group of people, made this leap to get on a plane and go to Norway for the first time with their daughters and be a part of this hockey program. And really, and Christy hasn't said this, but her daughter actually got hurt. She didn't get to participate in the camp as far as a player goes. But really, it was the cultural piece. And I think for what you're doing too, Lee, when you go to a different country and you get to kind of immerse yourself in their culture, it is a lot different when the language is the same. Like when you're able to speak, like I'm really fortunate to work with the Swedes and the Finns and the Norwegians, and they all speak English very, like, embarrassingly
better than us.
Better. Yeah. Like they're like, oh, I'm so sorry for my English. I'm like, you're sorry for your English.
They're beautiful. They speak. Our girls were amazed at just how beautifully they spoke. They're like, they speak better than us.
Crazy. So I'm saying, like in Lee's instance, it's a lot easier and it's much more productive, right? Because there's a lot less guessing. I'm having a conversation with athletes that I can communicate with directly,
right.
Without there being the game of phone.
What's interesting about it, England, is one is when we're there, we have the accent. I had the accent, right? I'm the traveler in their country. And the other thing too is that, look, I always say this: England, to me, I mean this lovingly, it's like a bizarro world. It's like a backwards world. They drive on the other side of the road. The steering wheels are on the different side of the car. We say, how you doing? They say, are you all right? It's just, everything's just slightly different, but familiar. And it's true in hockey too. And I've said this before, we grow up in America, American football, baseball, these are all sports. Tennis, where you use your arm to throw a ball. And in Europe, there's very few sports like that. It's football, European football, soccer, and lots of games like that. So even the skill sets are a little bit differently developed. And you have to navigate that as a coach, is understanding that and knowing that, some things are overdeveloped and underdeveloped. But, one of the things that's universal, obviously, is this team building side of things, right? They understood the need for that. I wanted to transition to this because Christy, you brought it up too. Look, there's politics everywhere. There's always politics. I'm not going to deny that, but the European model for sport, maybe this is a surprise to some of our listeners and viewers, it's very different than here. Here, at least in the Northeast, it's club hockey and high school hockey, and you jump from team to team to team to team. We've talked about that 100 times on the show. If you're in the North here, in the Midwest, it might be more high school than club. But in Europe, these development systems. So the team I coach is the Peterborough Phantoms, and they have levels of Phantoms teams. They have a women's team. They have a Phantoms 2 team. The youth team's called the Phantoms. And what happens is they develop these kids through this organization all the way up to the pro team. By the way, I want to say this because I always get this question. I'm going to be remiss if I don't say it. People always ask me, how is the hockey in England? It is extremely good. Okay, to prove my point, the guy that got the game-winning goal against us played in the NHL. Shot right through my soul and right into the net. But the point is, and the league I coach in is not even the top league. There's a league above us called the Elite League that has a lot of former NHL players. So and Great Britain as a country competes in the level 1 world championships. They play against USA and Canada. So hockey in England is very, very good and developing. But I love their development system, Mike, because these kids grow up, and I'm not saying kids don't jump from program to program. It does happen. But the dream is when you're 8 years old and you're a Phantom is to play for the pro Phantoms team and to grow up within that system. Now, what they lack is access to ice. They lack access to coaching, and they lack, and this is something we don't think about here, access to people. The population of the United Kingdom is nothing compared to Canada or the US, right? So they have to really get people into hockey and make sure that they develop properly. And this is all across Europe, right? European teams have development systems like that.
Right.
I noticed too, and that development model is ideal for building chemistry with the kids too. I mean, you can always tell the teams where the kids have grown up together and
like
played together. Yeah,
right.
They excel they're exceptional, and it's magical when you watch them.
Right.
So I imagine, and that's why I love that kind of a development system, because they grow up together, they know each other, they're comfortable with each other,
Right.
rather than jumping from team to team to team. It's just it's a great system. I wish we would adopt more of that here.
Look at all the money you save in helmets every year. So I think it's so I but
And
I
team
agree.
gear and team jackets.
Gear and
don't-
swag.
But I agree. I think, but that's why the European countries, though, I think, are leading the way in finding ways to develop talent, because they don't get lucky like we get lucky. Canada, the US, we have so many kids and we do so much wrong. We're just lucky because we have so many more kids. Like I was just, as you know, I do a lot of floorball stuff, and I was joking around with I do a lot of work with the Finnish floorball groups, and we're doing a floorball program with the NIHL and the New York Rangers to go into schools in New York City and the Bronx. And I was just doing the numbers while we were doing this project. And I said, we'll have more players in the Bronx playing floorball next year than the whole country of Finland.
Wow.
Just in the Bronx playing floorball. So when you think about the way we do our programming and the way we do hockey, our 350,000 athlete pool for hockey, we can risk not being as streamlined. But in Europe and Scandinavia and these other countries, you need to streamline it. And one of the pieces to streamline it is culture, right? Is keeping and retaining kids. Once you get them, you got to keep them. And I think that's what I love about, and you've probably seen it in that system. And Christy, you saw it being in this small little town in Oslo, Norway, that the whole community, it revolves around the kids. Yeah. And, if I go to Stop and Shop, maybe I'll run into a hockey kid every now and then. But in those towns, every single kid goes from soccer, football, hockey, and then, winter sports or whatever. So it is a different culture, but I think it's really cool to hear like that. I'm sure that's how the marketing team did well. I'm sure how they promoted the team, they did well. You keep going back to that group of people that has a vested interest culturally in seeing their town team succeed, because they hope to be there. Like that's where they're aspiring to be. Right. And, we lack a little bit of that, whether it's good or bad, who knows? It just, you don't see development systems like the New York Rangers and the Columbus Blue Jackets aren't developing a team that they say, oh, all these little 8-year-olds are going to grow up to be Columbus Blue Jackets. Right. That's not how it works. Right. But Europe, it does work that way.
It's far more capitalistic here. And the sad part is that it can still be capitalistic and work. I think that's what frustrates us so much. But, you talked about the culture. One of the things that England does, I'll say better than us. And we used to do this in this country. And that's what kind of bugs me, is the way their school system works is, they have primary school, which is, the younger grades, and they have secondary school. And then their secondary school, if I'm not mistaken, goes up to about what would be the equivalent of 10th or 11th grade here. And then the kids have to choose. Yeah. You go to college, which is a little different than our college, or do you go to kind of a trade school? All right. And we used to do that here. We used to value trade jobs. So there, it's just kind of, there's a career path of, do you want like further education? And then you can go to university. So college comes first and then university. There are different things over there. Or do you want to do more of a trade? And everyone I coach over there has a job. Funny moment. I was on the bus, trying to motivate. We have a young kid named Brad Bowering, who's fantastic. He's going to play on the national team one day. And I was on the bus and I said, hey, what do you do for a living? And he said, oh, I do this. I said, no, what do you do for a living? He said, I do this job. I said, what do you do for a living? He looked at me, he looks at the head coach, he goes, I'm a hockey player. I said, you're a hockey player. That's right. That's what you do for a living. We were on our way to a game. But the reason I bring this up, friends, is because their cultural difference of work and understanding what it takes. They have I'd say a more down-to-earth understanding. And again, there's some trade-off here. There's a down-to-earth understanding of the chances of making it, right? That doesn't stop them from pursuing it. But the trade-off is they probably don't dream to the same level as we do. But the other side of that trade-off is I think we have a lot of people in this country dream and ask, well, why didn't I get my dreams? Why didn't I accomplish my dreams? I deserve this. You don't deserve anything. You deserve the opportunity to try. That's about it. So it's fun to see the cultural side of things too. Not to mention, look, we have import players on this team that come from other countries. And it's just a different understanding. Look, hockey is not the number one sport over there. Not even top 5. right? So there's that of it too. And again, Mike, you brought up the fan, fan base, and that's how we revitalized the fan base. We went to our fans first and said, hey, come back. Hockey's on. By the way, interesting fact, and I'm not trying to say this to be funny. COVID over there is almost non-existent. I had no problem entering the country. It wasn't talked about. Keeping in mind, I think the difference is most people in that country are vaccinated. But I had more problems getting back in the United States than I did getting into England, which was funny to me. Not making funny of a serious matter, but anyway, anytime, this is kind of my final thought, Christy, and I'll throw it to you. I think anytime you and your children can get to a multicultural experience outside of this country, or even in this country, going to another part of the country, that can be just as eye-opening. If you're from the North, head on down to the South or head on over to the West. Just experience something other than what you do every day can really change your perception on things. Like I said, the fact that the league title, the President's Trophy, is their big championship, I had a really hard time understanding that my first few years there, but I came to understand it more. I'm still a playoff guy. I want to win the Stanley Cup. That's my goal. But I understood why they pride themselves on that championship, especially when you look at promotion, relegation, and other sports. So just a lovely experience as always. And I always want to shout out that team and that city is so welcoming to me when I go there. They are so open arms of just welcome back. It didn't start that way. When I first started there, we don't need an American here to help us, but they're so welcoming now. It's really like a home away from home for me. So I was privileged to be able to do that this season and especially the last month.
I love it. Yeah. And aside from just the experience of hockey, Mike, it was just the cultural experience that was so memorable for us too. Just being able to walk the neighborhoods and be with the families, have a little strawberry festival in their backyards. And it was just it's so relaxed. And there was such not an emphasis on competition all the time. Right. It was just enjoying each other and enjoying life and slowing down and appreciating each other, which was great. It's just such a great perspective. And you come back and it's like, what am I doing? Time to slow down, right?
Yeah, Christy, I'll tell you, the best I ever did up at Lake Placid was bronze. And it was still one of my favorite trips of all time. And again, look, in England, I was very fortunate to win a championship. But I've loved having lived there. I love just visiting there. I love being able to get, a scone and clotted cream and jam and what they call coffee, which it's not great, but tea is fantastic over there.
They have the best tea.
They do have the best tea. But yeah, I think the moral of the story is that a few things from this episode. One is that I've had people ask me, how do I get involved in coaching? There's a lot of different ways. Right. And one of the reasons I wanted to take this challenge on this year was to see, hey, maybe this remote thing can work. Maybe this will open up an avenue. And this show and a lot of the work I do and the work that Mike does is we're trying to get stuff out there. Let's share the information that we have. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, if you ever have the opportunity, and I will stress that I understand that not everybody does, because these are expensive trips. I was fortunate that I was asked to come over. If you ever have the opportunity to really see a new culture or new side of things, embrace that. And especially for your kids at a young age, you want them to see that. I mean, any other final thoughts, guys? This is gonna be a shorter episode tonight because Christy Cashina Burns is on assignment. If you're watching, she's literally in her newsroom right now.
It's kind of a busy day too. So Mike, why don't you wrap us up?
Yeah, no. And I would echo what both of you have said, that this is where I would bend my rule of crazy tournaments, is that find destinations that allow cultural building, find ways to enhance your life, enhance your kids' lives. And if you can get out of listen, there's always room for competition. There's always room to, go out and go for blood, but there's also these great experiences that the sport of hockey brings us all together. And there's that common piece. And it is amazing when you go away. Like for me, it's always amazed me when I've gone to Europe, and especially the Scandinavian countries that really go out of their way to make you feel so welcoming.
And they do.
And really just, you start to appreciate, wow, they really think that we're doing everything great over here.
You don't honk at each other.
I'm like, they thought our girls were rock stars. You American girls are rock stars. I'm like,
yeah, really. It's always nice to see how other countries see us, because here there's a lot of self-loathing, but you go to another country, they go, America's the greatest place ever. And people,
Yeah,
look
we're
at it,
we're really lucky, and the kids
Yeah.
are lucky to do these kind of things. You're lucky to be able to go over there and help these young men
Yeah.
succeed in their town and their mission to win. And I think that is a great, kind of ending, is that we want to, make sure that we're taking all of these great experiences we have the opportunity to be a part of. And the part for me that I enjoy the most is it's hockey that allows me to find them.
Right.
I don't know if I was maybe doing something else, just sitting around as an accountant or something, maybe I wouldn't get invited to, Finland and, do some hockey work. So it is great. It is fun.
I'll close it with this. I say this, I'm so thankful and so privileged to be able to do what I do within this game. And there is not a day, I mean, that goes by that I'm not just thankful that I get to live my life this way and experience it with other people. So, and that goes for you too, as well. This show's been
And
a
it
blessing.
brought the three of us together.
And it's going to continue to bring us together, because a quick teaser, we're going to be coming to you all summer here and all off season. We've got a lot of great interviews lined up. Yeah,
No.
Mike, sorry, it's in your contract. Your contract's in the mail. We got a lot of great interviews. We got a lot of great episodes coming up. So stick with us all summer. And we ask you, if you like this show, if you enjoy it, tell a friend, tell the other parents on your team. We are growing rapidly, and we understand that we're providing value, and we want to make this audience and this community as big as possible. So like us, share us, 5-star us, subscribe to us, whatever it is that you need to do, and join our Facebook group, Our Kids Play Hockey. But we got to get Christy Casciano Burns out of here, because she's got to do the news. All right. So for Christy
It's
Casciano,
time for the news.
it's time for the news. Good luck. Good night. No, all right. For Christy Casciano Burns and Mike Benelli, I'm Lee Elias. We'll see you on the next edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Good night, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.